recording so that we can store all of these conversations on the website that talk about the different staff positions. That's what we've been going through the last several weeks, is introducing each of the staff positions and the people the staff persons that make up the Illinois Conference. And over the last year, we've restructured everything. So all of the jobs look different. So we've heard from several of us. Today we're hearing from Sarah Lorbach, and Sarah, I see her on this sort of on the screen. She's dealing with some technical issues at home for a second. She's just juggling some things at home and will be here with us in a moment. Sarah is the support staff for communications and technology, and in my opinion has been a huge asset to the conference staff in the last little while. Part of what we did when we worked to restructure these positions was to look at what do we do well, what do we not do well, and what do we not do. And some of the things we were not doing was some of the tech stuff that really was needing to be done to support the conference. Sarah has literally saved us thousands of dollars already in consolidating some of our accounts. We had a surprisingly large number of Zoom accounts, and we've consolidated them. And those of you who are parts of churches, Zoom, you can get 50% discount through TechSoup, if you know about TechSoup. And if your church needs technology tools, you should always check there first and see if you can get discounts. They have discounts on all sorts of things. We've already also got, we've converted from our Gmail accounts to their Microsoft accounts, but our emails all end now in ilucc.org. And that's really helpful in things like grant writing. Some things you might be surprised that it would make a difference in, but it does make a difference in grant writing when your email is not a Gmail account. So there are some advantages, and it's been, there's always challenges with transitioning technology tools, but it's really giving us more robust abilities on the conference staff. And so, Sarah, are you now joined us? Good. Well, I'm going to turn it right over to Sarah. I'm going to let her introduce herself and talk with you about what she does. And then we'll have, like we have the last several weeks, open conversation where questions can be asked of Sarah or of me, or both of us, or anybody else on the screen maybe, but we'll have some open conversation. And so gather up your questions and I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Sarah Lorbach, and I am the support staff for communications and technology for the Illinois Conference. Yes, it is a mouthful. So I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about both kind of what it is that is in my job description, but also just some of the ins and outs of what it is that I do for the conference that may not be as easily reflected in a job description, because you simply can't capture everything. So as Molly already explained a little bit, one of the big things that I did when I first started was working on getting all of our emails switched over, and I am the primary administrator for our Microsoft account. So setting up all of those licenses, and a part of that process was making sure that all of our staff, especially those who were not new on staff and had those old ilcomp@gmail emails, making sure those emails got forwarded, making sure that the inboxes and all of the folders and contacts and everything from those old accounts got migrated into the new account so that they didn't get lost, so that that history was still there within that new account, and so that they didn't lose all of that history and be having to go back and forth between the old emails and the new emails. And so it is a process, and it took several months, but we are officially fully over into our ILUCC emails. Our new staff that we just onboarded the last couple of weeks all have their new ILUCC emails as well. And that is part of one of the things that I do as part of the onboarding process is getting those things set up, including for Stephanie, making sure she has her conference laptop and her conference phone and all of the other technological tools that she needs to be able to do her job with the conference. So that's part of what I do, and as well as managing our Zoom account and a lot of those other tech accounts that Molly was mentioning before. One of the other big things that I do is handle our conference e-newsletters. So the Money Matters emails, the emails that go out every Tuesday about these chats, the e-blasts that go out twice a month, which are our newsletters that have all the information about job openings and articles about things happening in the Illinois Conference, in the wider UCC, and in our area and in the world in general. So we'll share things in there from the National UCC, articles that local churches send in or staff members send in about things that are happening in their churches or within their roles, so that we can share this news about what's happening in the conference with one another. So if you ever have something you'd like to share in an e-newsletter, or if you have a job posting that you'd like to share in your congregation, maybe for an administrator or something that's not a pastoral position, I'm the person you send those to, and I will make sure they get added to our website and get included in our e-newsletters so that they can go out to the broader conference. Those are some of the e-newsletters, managing the website, which we're also in the process of figuring out how do we get a better website, because our website's a little clunky and we can't update our platform because we're worried that if we do too many things and make too many changes to the platform itself, that we'll have another crash of our website, which we are trying at all costs to avoid. So some of the main things are updating some of the pages, updating the events listings to include committee meetings, all conference chats, association council meetings, all of those things. So once you give the conference those dates will then get added to our calendar on our website. And so that's managing the website, managing our e-newsletters, managing our social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, which after the past annual celebration, we went from around 20 or so subscribers to we are officially over 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So all of these chats, which you'll see we are now recording, once I get the recordings for these chats from Zoom, I upload those to YouTube so that they're available for people to watch after. So that's another part of what I do, is managing our YouTube page, uploading videos like recordings from these chats so that people who weren't able to attend can then watch them afterwards. One of the other main things that I do is general tech support for the conference office, for our conference staff. And this can be everything from coming into the office one morning for work to find out that our internet is out. And then after we get restored internet access, finding out that we lost connection to our server and getting that fixed. So general tech support, things like that, making sure everything is running smoothly. And that we have internet and that we have access to our files. And one of the recent things that we did in our conference office was that I helped install new VoIP phones, which is instead of landline phones, they work through the internet. And we had a lot of issues with our old phone lines, where when you would call us at the conference office, we would hear a lot of static. So it would make it hard to hear what people were saying to us. And since we switched over to our new VoIP phone system, we have no static and we can hear you wonderfully when you call our office. So it makes a big difference when you call to ask questions or share news, that we can actually hear what you're saying to us without having to ask you to repeat yourselves several times because of the static in the background. So that is another big piece of what I've done since I started, in addition to switching over those emails and consolidating our Zoom accounts. The other big piece that I have done is working with our annual celebration and getting all of the technical needs done that needed to be done for that. So setting up all the Zoom meetings, creating the web pages so that our visitors and our delegates had a one-stop shop to find all of the links and all the information they needed to be able to participate, whether it was a Zoom meeting, or a YouTube recording, or a Zoom meeting that was live streamed to YouTube. So managing all of those pieces for annual celebration, getting the registration process set up, and handling those pieces of it to make sure that all the technical pieces that went into making our virtual annual celebration in November go as smoothly as possible, because no virtual event or any event is ever 100% smooth, but we do what we can to make it as smooth as possible. And several of you, I know I've worked with a few of you already, but if you are familiar with Mission Insight, which is a program that is under ACS Technologies, which is also part of our Realm database. I've been handling our Realm database updates, getting our volunteers trained to be able to help make those updates so that we can make the switch fully over to our new Realm database from our Access database. But then I'm also the admin for our Mission Insight account. So if you are looking for getting demographics for the area around your church, and you want to know a little bit more about the surrounding area and community, you want to know how to target some of the things that you're doing, want to know who's living in the community surrounding your church, I can set you up as a user with Mission Insight so that you can run demographics reports specified to your needs for your congregation. So these are helpful for churches for many reasons, but if you're interested in getting in board and learning anything about the demographics in your community, I would be the person that you would contact to get access into our conference's Mission Insight account. And one of the, some of the other things I do are just miscellaneous odds and ends, like creating new forms for people to be able to fill out when there's an ordination or installation or ecclesiastical council, so that we get all the information we need and can advertise those appropriately. Updating some of our other forms to make what was just a Word document into an editable PDF, so people can fill those out electronically and send those back to us. And I do a lot of other little odds and ends and wonderful things, but that is a big gist of what I do. A lot of things can't necessarily easily be put on paper or explained in a broad fashion, but so a lot of things I do just come through my desk on a day-to-day basis. And anything communications, technology related usually ends up in my lap.
Thanks, Sarah. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? Harriet.
Do you coordinate with Illinois South? I think that is that Lynn Shupert in terms of some of the communications and things. I guess I say that because as Justice and Witness Chair, a lot of things require the whole state. And so I do have the article which I sent for eBlast. Thank you very much for putting it out there. Sent the same article down to Illinois South. And that some of us who are doing things across the entire state, they're not just, they go beyond the conference in terms of wanting to reach out to people. So I appreciate it. Thank you for your clarity, really. And I goofed on the date. There's a discrepancy in the date with somebody. I just copied and pasted, and we continued the error, but somebody's reading it because they asked me about it. So that's good.
Well, that's good. And if you shoot me an email, I can get that corrected.
Oh.
So to the long of your, there's a short answer and a long answer. The short answer is we don't currently do any coordination per se in terms of working together to get word out across Illinois and Illinois South. That is not out of the realm of possibilities, but I do subscribe to several other UCC conference newsletters, including Illinois South, so that I and the conference can stay informed about some of the other things that some of our other conferences are doing, and to keep that connection that way, so that even though we're not at this point regularly coordinating with them on things, that we're at least informed about what they're doing. And I believe that Illinois South also receives our e-newsletter as well.
Sarah, would you comment a little bit about the progress we're making getting the Realm database up to date and usefulness in the office and so forth?
Yes, absolutely. It has been a long, grueling process because in our Realm database, we had, when the information got pulled over from Data Hub, it pulled into, when it came into our Realm database, it had a lot of churches that it had in as active churches that had actually closed or left the denomination. So there were over 100 churches listed that are actually active or still open in our conference. So we had to go through the initial process of going through all that, figuring out which churches weren't actually active or still in existence, and removing those, deactivating them from the account, which got us down to about 210 to 220 or so churches that are currently active in the conference. But then we also have over probably around 800 people that are in our Realm database, but those are all clergy. But the problem is when those clergy were brought in from Data Hub, some of them were brought in as personnel profiles, which means when they were brought in, they were already connected as a staff person at a church. But that was only about 1/3 of the people, which means 2/3 of the people in our Realm database, we don't have any information. We didn't start with any information as to what church they were working in, or if they were currently working or retired or any of that, because they were just brought in as regular people profiles. So they didn't have any of the ministerial information included with that. So part of our process is we now have to, in order to avoid cross-checking 800 records with 800 records in-house, we're working on different ways. So we've got some volunteers that have made some progress in reaching out to churches to make sure we have the most accurate contact information, address, phone number, email, and then making sure we have the most accurate staff for that church, because because this data was brought in early in 2021, I believe. So several people had already changed positions by the fall when we started working. So we're working on fixing those issues. And in the coming weeks, we will be sending out a kind of a Realm database updating sheet. So the greatest thing you can do to help us is when you get this sheet, especially if you're a clergy or you're an employee at a local church or even a volunteer at a local church, filling those forms out and getting them back to us so that we can then make sure that information is correct in our system. Because as I said, there are around 800 people, and these are just authorized ministers. This doesn't include all of our committee members who are lay members and who are not pastors and churches, who will then also eventually need to be added in. So it is a process. And so my request is just that you be patient with us as we work through this. And when you see that information coming out about filling out the form, we will be sending this electronically, but we will also be hard mailing it to all of our churches for those who don't have email or aren't able to get our electronic newsletters, so that everybody is able to get that form. But it'll just be, kind of the basic information. Where are you currently working? What's your, current address, phone number, email. And we just want to make sure that we have the most updated records, because if we don't want to start using this and move away from our old one until we're ready. But we've begun a process where we're doing double duty. So when we get updates, for emails, addresses, phones, changes in calls, we're updating them both in our current database and our new Realm database. So we're slowly but surely working towards that, but it'll be a process, yeah.
Sarah, could you walk us through some of the ways that you've saved the conference money?
Yes. So one of the biggest money savers was with our Zoom accounts. We had all of our staff members that had Zoom had separate accounts, and we had licenses and things that we were paying for that we weren't actually using. So we had extra licenses, we had extra webinar add-ons and things like that. And with the TechSoup discount, which is 50% off for nonprofits, you only get one per organization. So only one of our Zoom accounts had that 50% discount, I've since consolidated all of our accounts into one main Zoom account, removed all the extra licenses that we weren't using, and now that 50% discount is applied to everything on our account. So our large meeting add-on that CMA needs when they have, over 100 people in their meetings, our webinar add-on, which we use during annual celebration, and those things, which is saving the conference nearly $3,000 a year. Just by consolidating those accounts and removing the licenses we weren't using. So that was one of the big money savers. I've also been working very closely with Lynn Chinlin over the last several months in figuring out our phone and internet situation. We found out that we apparently for a while had an internet fairy who was paying for our internet, and we weren't even sure where the bills were going because we never got any bills. So we figured out who we had our internet through. And when we were figuring out the issue with switching our phones over to VoIP and all of that, we've moved away from AT&T. We now have our internet with Comcast, and Lynn and I have been able to work with Comcast to get that bill down to where we are saving a substantial amount of money, probably also somewhere in the thousands regarding our phone and internet per year. Lynn and I have been working very closely together on figuring out those issues to save another big chunk of money for the conference. And eventually, one of the things that is in the works for the coming year is consolidating our constant contact accounts. Some of you from varying associations may have seen that you've gotten, if you're in Fox Valley, you've gotten an e-newsletter from the Fox Valley Association and not the, conference constant contact. So we have several different constant contact accounts that are currently in use. Some of them are association specific, and then we have the one that are e-newsletters and money matters and our all conference chat emails come through. And eventually we will be consolidating all of that into one account, which will save the conference upwards of $1,000 a year by consolidating those and having the one main account. That's going to take a little bit more of a process than our Zoom consolidation, which was very simple and streamlined. Constant contact, we can't consolidate them. We have to recreate all of those lists into the account we're going to use going forward. So it's a much more time-consuming process, but we are working on slowly making that shift so that we can save another chunk of money and have all of our lists in one location so that we always know which list is the most accurate and up to date. Any other questions?
Ken.
Sarah?
Oh, go ahead, Kathy. And
Oh,
then
no, you go
Ken, and
right
then
ahead.
Harriet.
No, go.
Ken?
Sarah, on Mission Insight, I find that just a wonderful tool for our toolbox. Is there any way that you can advise or, I would say provide some sort of training for local churches so they know how to use that software? Or is there any outside sources that we can use to, provide training to us through the conference?
That is something that we are going to be looking into. It'll be a conversation we'll have to have with ACS Technologies to figure out what we can do within what we already pay for and subscribe to. We have, so many training hours that we have as a staff to kind of learn the ins and outs of Realm and the ACS financial system and including Mission Insight. But I do know that ACS does occasionally offer some free trainings and webinars regarding Mission Insight. My hope is that they're going to offer some more of those in the future. But we also have the opportunity, sometime later this spring to even have one of our all conference chats be focused on Mission Insight and what it is and how do we use it. And so at the very least, we plan on doing that at some point. But we may be able to do more once we have a conversation and figure out what we're able to do with ACS in terms of offering that training for our local churches. So yes, and we're working on it.
Harriet?
this is kind of follow up the same thing with Realm. How Realm might be utilized. I have sort of a general sense of it, but I would, anyway, I was on the CTS gathering at noon, and they were talking about the Interfaith Collaborative Leaders Network that's fairly new. In fact, the rabbi said, Molly, that you are on that. And he used talking about the last mile. He used the phrase, the last mile, in reference to vaccinations. And you've got to get it out to the last mile. And it immediately hit me. And so this is a perfect timing, Sarah, for your work. How do we get our information out to the last mile? How do we get, when I want to send up something from Justice and Witness or Roger from Disaster, it doesn't go into the pastor's email and, and then into the wastebasket and things like that. Is that something Realm will be able to help us with, or how will we harvest what there is in Realm?
So that's always one of the struggles, is how do you make sure things actually get into people's hands or get into their inboxes and get opened and get read? There are about 1,200 or so contacts in our constant contact account, but our open rate is about 40% on average. There's a lot of people that are getting things, but not, everybody's opening things. So we can, we like to send things out and get them as available as possible, which is why when we occasionally do send things via snail mail, because we know that not everybody gets the e-newsletters or has, easy access to email. And so when we have important things that we want to make sure every church gets, we'll do those hard copies mailed to the churches. The part about Realm, that once we make the shift fully into Realm, there's going to be a lot of different things that we're going to be able to do through Realm. So we'll be able to set up groups in Realm. So each of our committees can have a group, and within that group, you can have features where you can chat with one another, send emails, set up meetings, all through the Realm database. So you'll be able to be added to that group. We can do all these different kinds of things. We'll be able to create pathways, which Naomi and myself in the MLT will be actually having a training next week on Realm Pathways, where we'll be able to actually set up pathways for when a church is going through a transition. What are the steps that need to happen, and in what order do they need to happen? And we can assign people to these roles. So there's a lot of wonderful things that we'll be able to do with Realm. But a lot of those things we won't be able to start utilizing to their fullest potential until we make the shift fully into Realm. But we'll also be able to integrate our online giving eventually into Realm through Venco, the same company that we use with our online giving right now, which will then tie it to your profile right in our database. So there's lots of wonderful things that will be able to happen once we make that shift. Our Realm database will be connected to our ACS financials system. So there are a lot of good things that will be coming that will, I think, be a great way of streamlining and making things a lot more efficient in terms of how we, get information out, how we communicate with people and things like that. So there are a lot of tools that will come in handy, but we won't be able to fully utilize those until we're officially fully in Realm.
Kathy, you had a question earlier.
It was really just a comment. Thank you very, very much, Sarah. It's wonderful to have you as part of the conference staff. And second, you're also darn upbeat. Thank you. I can't get very upbeat about technology sometimes, but you always are. That's a gift.
I wasn't quite as upbeat on yesterday morning when I came in and we had no internet. But when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it can be very frustrating. But that's why I am here.
Sarah, you talked about online giving. Has there been advances in that compared to, say, 6 months ago or a year ago in terms of recording and I did do some online giving and then I gave up on it.
That question, I don't know that I can speak directly to. That would probably be more of a Molly or Lynn or Keith question. The only thing I really have much to do in terms of online giving is, going in and making adjustments to the actual online giving page. So removing the ones that we're no longer using, making sure the annual celebration registration gets added in when we need that in there, medical debt relief, and those kinds of things. But beyond kind of adjusting and editing the actual online giving page to the extent that we can, I don't do a whole lot with the actual processing of any of that.
I think that especially with the annual celebration and with the medical debt relief, the Vanco online worked really well, and the tracking of it and everything worked really well. And David Holston just posted that he's donated online recently, and it was quick and easy. I've set up a recurring donation, and that makes it super easy for me. But I also feel like I ought to go in and confirm that it's all being, because I know that I did not get an end of the year statement of giving. And so that, like any other issue that comes up, it gives us an opportunity to explore, wonder why that came out that way. And it's just, it's a data point, and I'm okay with that. And then figuring out how to make it better. We're still in a constant process improvement. Sarah was a big help this week as tech host. I don't know if anyone else here attended the Zoom-based healthy boundary awareness training, but it went really well. I know 6 hours feels like a really long Zoom meeting, but with Sarah's help, we were able to use quite a few different, few different sorts of interactive activities that kept it moving along at a fairly nice pace. And the feedback we got was that it was intimidating to think about 6 hours, but it went by nice and quick and was a good experience. So. Other questions for Sarah or for me? So Sarah, how can the folks gathered here, or really any folks in the conference, be of help to you, or how can they reach out to you for you to help them?
So I'm going to drop my email into the chat so that everyone has it in case you don't already have it. If you have questions about Mission Insight, questions about our realm database updating, you just have a question about consolidating Zoom accounts in your own church, things like that. If you have an article you would like to put in an upcoming e-newsletter, or an event you'd like to advertise, a job posting, any of those kinds of questions, you can either call the conference office and ask to talk to me, or you can send me an email at my conference email, and I will get back to you as soon as I am able. But anything, if you notice something on the website that needs updating, things like that, there are certain things on the website we aren't able to update. And unfortunately, one of those things on our current website is the listing of churches. But if you do go to our church information page where it has all of our churches listed, there is a printable PDF on that page under items of interest that is updated as of January of this year. So there is an updated listing, but not on the actual website, which we are unable to unfortunately update. So there are certain things I may tell you, I would love to be able to do that, but unfortunately I can't. But anything that I'm able to do, I will happily help you with in terms of getting information out about events. Rudra, you asked about getting ODM info out to the conference. You know, all of those things. If you need something advertised to the wider conference, I'm the person to send it to. Whether you eventually, one of the things I'll be working on now that we have a form to help with ordinations and other ministerial events, we'll also be creating a general just event form so that you can let us know the specifics of your event and the different ways you'd like us to advertise that as the conference. So that'll be coming soon as well, and it'll be going out to, it'll get included in one of our e-newsletters and will get sent out to all of our committee chairs so that you are all aware of how to submit that so that we can continue to make sure we advertise everything as best as we are able.
Harriet?
The Holy Spirit must really be present, or Sarah's reading my mind or something. We were looking at the directories. So is that what you're saying? More about that? We can print one as of January 1?
So
how do we do it?
I will, let me pull up the website so I can screen share with you exactly where to go to do this. And
Like an
there's
article
so there is on our actual church listing page, if you go under contact us to Illinois Conference Churches, I'm going to screen share this here in a minute and show you the page that I am talking about. So when you look at this page of our website, which you get to from going to contact us and then Illinois Conference Churches, all of these listings over here, we are unable to edit. The way it is set up, we can't edit all these individual listings. But if you go over here under items of interest, you'll see that it says Illinois Conference Churches Directory, printable listing. If you click here, it will open up your directory as of January of this year, which is from our Access database, which is the most accurate database we have currently. So if you go to the website, there you can find this listing, and that is the most up-to-date church directory that we have. It is not fully accurate. We know this. We know that there are things in here that are probably not accurate. So if you do look at that and you notice there is something on there for you or your church that needs to be updated, please send Naomi at Conference Admin. I'll drop her email in the chat as well. And she can update that in both our Access database and our Realm database so that we can make sure we get that addressed. And eventually, once we make the shift into Realm, we will actually have a digital directory that we get right through Realm. So people will be able to access the directory online through Realm. And so that'll make a huge change once we make that shift, because then instead of having a printable directory, it'll be an online directory that is updated in real time anytime we make an update.
Well, thank you, Sarah. You're such a huge asset to our team and to the Illinois Conference, and you're going to help us emerge into the 21st century. So thank you, and thank you for sharing today. And folks, if you have other questions, reach out to Sarah. When is what anticipated, Harriet?
The shift with Realm and digital directory, is that like months away, weeks away?
It's dependent, as Sarah was saying earlier, it's dependent on having the data accurate enough to trust it. So like my first 18 months were on trying to get the financial data accurate enough to trust it and to be able to use it. So now we're working really hard and diligently on getting the the contact information, church information, all of that information, and up. And our hope was to have it done last November. So it's February, it's not November. So we were still hoping to have it done yesterday, and it's still in process. So we're getting there. We're getting there. And we invite grace along the way.
Is
Yeah,
that
and
like getting the driveway shoveled?
yeah, and one of the challenges, we have 18 volunteers who sign up to help with this, but then we also went into Advent season and another surge of COVID, and all of these things have impacted all of this as well. And there's the challenge of not every church has someone there with regular office hours, and so it's more difficult to get in touch with someone to be able to update the contact information. And so it is a slow process, but we are going to keep pushing forward to keep it moving along and continuing to find new and other ways to continue to find and correct that information so that we know once we launch that, this is as accurate as we can possibly get it. Knowing that even then it won't be 100%.
So next week, we get to hear from Kathy Laws. Our ACM jobs are starting their change. We're so glad Stephanie's on board, and that helps things move along. And Kathy, you may recall, is now working with all of the committees on ministry for the whole conference and all things related to committees on ministry. So we'll hear from her next week to start talking about what the ACM roles are looking like and how that's emerging. So I hope you all will be back for that. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing with us today and for all that you do. If there are no final questions, I will bid you adieu and wish you health and warmth on this snowy day, snowy COVID-y day. May you all be blessed.